Here we go. All right, so good morning, everyone. And I am really glad to see all these faces and a couple voices for our last gathering of the year. And what we're going to do today is we're going to actually devote the first chunk of time and most of the time to Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. As y'all know, a number of our meetings over the past year and a half, we've devoted to exploring affordable housing options and just housing in general, because as we know, particularly in our geographic footprint, there has been a tremendous amount of change just over the last few years, but definitely over the last 10 years. And it's, as we've talked about many times, it's getting harder and harder for folks who want to live in a community to know exactly what that could look like, particularly if they've got limited funds. And so I've been excited that we've had a number of different entities come in. And so I'm really excited for the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust to be able to share a bit of what they're doing, the unique ways that they're stepping into this space. And so, yeah, I'm not going to waste much more time on me doing an intro, and I'm going to pass the figurative mic to Elizabeth and Candace, who are representing Maggie Walker Land Trust today. So welcome, and thanks for joining.
Thank you for having us. It is definitely our honor to be here. Just by way of introduction, for me, I am Candace Turner. I am the new Director of Home Ownership with Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. And I will say I have a particular affection for the Fairmont community. I ran up and down Fairmont Avenue as a child many times. And also I am familiar with, I believe it's Miss T. I need to see your face to make sure that I'm talking about who I think I'm talking about. But I also work with, ma'am.
Yeah, the telephone, I'm still trying to connect by way of the internet. I don't know what's happening.
I know your voice though, so I know you're who I think I'm talking about. But I also work with Miss Cynthia Newbill as well on the 25th Street corridor with some of the development she's working on. And so also prior to coming to Maggie Walker, I worked with the Richmond Health Department, and my office was right on 25th Street. We did Narcan distribution, personal care items and things of that nature. And originally I'm from Churchill. I grew up on 30th Street. So I have a particular affection for the community, and I didn't even know that this civic organization existed. So I'm really excited to be here. And I will pass it to my colleague to introduce herself as well, Miss Elizabeth, who's also with us. This is a good opportunity for you all to see how we tag team and how we work together, and for you all to see the passion that we have for the community and offering. I'm trying to think of a new name for the type of housing that we're offering. Yes, it's affordable housing, but any housing, regardless of how much it costs, we all are trying to afford it, right? So we're looking to provide new ways and new avenues and approaches, to home ownership for people, especially in this market that may have a harder time of purchasing a home. So Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Munyon. I am the home purchasing coordinator at Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. And so my focus is on getting people applying to our program, and then through the transactions and the whole application process into their new home. I am from Richmond originally, left for a while, and now I'm back here in hometown. And so I'm excited to be here today and to share this all with you. Let's see, I think I need to mute. I'm hearing a bit of an echo. I think I muted Mary. So with that, I will go ahead and get started on our presentation, and there will be definitely lots of opportunity for questions throughout. And I'll get started, and then Candace and I will kind of tag team, and we can call on each other and answer any questions as we go along. Let's see. So this is really, I'm gonna skip through some of these things that are not necessarily related to our presentation, but just in the agenda for the session, I'm going to talk about Maggie Walker and our namesake for this organization, and a bit of the history of community land trusts and the benefit of the home ownership program. And then I'm going to go into more of the details of our program, and then a little bit about our application process. Let's see. So as an organization based in Richmond, we wanted to focus and uplift Maggie Walker, who is one of our most notable Richmond historic figures. She was the first Black woman to establish a bank and the first to serve as the president of the bank in the US. Not only was Maggie Walker an amazing businesswoman, but she uplifted the community with her, empowered Black families, and created opportunities for them to have stability and economic mobility. She was innovative and a visionary community leader, not only impacted and created opportunities for her community, but focused a lot on intergenerational investments. She paved the way not only for Black business owners and community leaders, but women specifically, who at the time were not deemed worthy of having a seat at the table. And a lot of our work is really focused on intergenerational investments and uplifting the community along with individuals. And what is a community land trust? Community land trusts are ways that help families afford home ownership now and also in the future. So community land trusts reduce the cost of home ownership and keep home affordable for future buyers. So we're not just focused on creating affordability in the present, but also into the future for many generations to come. And we'll get into that in a bit of the conversation. But how it works is community land trusts are nonprofit organizations that are governed by a board. And our board is composed of 1/3 homeowners, public representatives, and then 1/3 of like community residents. So we're really focused on homeowner involvement and involving voices of the people who own homes. And we are focused on providing lasting community assets and shared equity home ownership opportunities for families and communities. And so community land trusts in general, the model can be applied to things that are not just affordable housing. So they can be rural and agricultural projects or commercial spaces, or conservation type projects. But the work that we do at Maggie Walker is really focused on maintaining permanently affordable housing. And we're focused really on successful home ownership opportunities for generations of lower to median income families. And I'm going to go a bit into the history of community land trusts in the US. So the first community land trust was in Albany, Georgia, and it evolved out of the civil rights movement in the 1960s. So at this point, Black citizens who were sharecroppers in Albany, Georgia were getting kicked off their land if they exercised the right to vote, if their white landlords found out that they had registered to vote. And in response to that, these activists bought a large farm with the intention of farming the land together, but owning their houses individually, and really focused on land stewardship and uplifting the community. There's a lot more to this history, and it's a really important history that we do want to just focus on at the beginning of our presentations, just to uplift this history. I think CLTs have gotten a lot of catching on nationally now, which is really great. But this model has been around for a long time, since the civil rights movement. So that's something that I want to uplift. And here's a map. This is a little bit dated. There are some more community land trusts now, but this is just to show nationally what is going on with community land trusts around the country. And I will point out that there are 3 in Virginia. So there's Maggie Walker Community Land Trust, which is us. And then there's the Piedmont Community Land Trust in Charlottesville. And then also the Virginia Statewide Community Land Trust, which is more statewide focused and not just on a specific locality, but currently it's pretty new, and a lot of the homes are in Loudoun County and Fauquier County, and have come out of relationships with Habitat for Humanity branches. So there's a lot going on nationally, and this map doesn't show all of the land trust work that's happening throughout the country, but just a picture of how this is catching on pretty recently in response to affordability nationwide. And this is a map of us specifically, and this is also not completely up to date, but just going to give us a little snapshot of our program and where we are currently serving. So Maggie Walker Community Land Trust currently has homes in Chesterfield, Henrico County, and the city of Richmond. The majority of our work started in the city of Richmond, primarily in the Randolph neighborhood and Church Hill and in Northside. And we have partnered with the counties of Henrico and Chesterfield and expanded into the Highland Springs area and then into Chesterfield County. And I will talk a bit later about our Ettrick Landing project and our Bensley Agrohead project, and those are in the Chesterfield County. And I will continue on. I'm going to talk a bit about, I'm going to go into some examples of our homes that we have sold and give you all some real world examples. But so far, so we started as an organization in 2017. So far, we have served 74 families. We have 28 owner occupied houses and 20 plus in our pipeline for 2023. So we have a lot more coming. So this house is on Home Street in Northside. It sold for $210, but the appraised value was $275. It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, and it is an example of a partnership that we had with Habitat for Humanity. And here is another property that was a rehab with another one of our partners, Project Homes, who we partner with a lot. We are partners with a lot of other affordable housing programs in the city of Richmond. So a number of our partnerships are Project Homes and Habitat for Humanity. We also work a bit with RHA, and how that works is a developer will build the house and then we buy the land from them. And the homeowner is also income qualified into our program, but we have development partnerships, and I'll get into that in a bit when I talk about the CLT model, but I just want to give you all some examples of where our homes are and what they look like. So this home, North Ivy Avenue, was sold in 2020. It sold for $155, but the appraised value of the home was $195,300 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and that's in Highland Springs. And then this was another home that sold in 2021 in Chesterfield County, Tanbark Road. It appraised for $217,600, and we were able to sell it to the homeowner for $175. North Ash Avenue sold just about a year ago in Henrico County. for 160, and its appraised value was 210, and 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I think we have, yes, Crawford. This was another project with Habitat for Humanity, so they were the builder of this home. It appraised for almost 300,000, 291,800, and we were able to get that sales price down to 149. A pretty large 3-bedroom for 1456 square feet. And then Candace, would you like to tell us a little bit about Ettrick Landing?
Sure. So Ettrick is a new subdivision. It's our first subdivision. It's actually the first subdivision under a community land trust in the country. So we're really excited about that. There will be 7 2-story homes, 3 fully accessible homes for seniors or people having disabilities. Excuse me. And we're working with Eagle of Virginia and Project Homes to build that community. We had a groundbreaking ceremony about a month ago. And so this has gotten the community extremely excited. And what's really good about this community is that the average price is going to be $180,000 for the homes. If I'm not mistaken, the first few homes it'll be about 4 or 5 homes, and then we'll do the rest later on in the year 2023. So we're really excited about that. And it is right on the line of Chesterfield County and Petersburg. So most of the time when you think about the Ettrick community, what comes to mind is Virginia State. It's close proximity to Virginia State. Next slide. And I can talk a little bit about the agri-hood as well. Anybody familiar with an agri-hood? It was a new word for me. Anyone familiar with agri-hood? Raise your hand. Okay. All right. Well, an agri-hood is basically a master plan community. It focuses on food security and basically creating its own ecosystem, so to speak. So yes, there are homes, but it also has a community garden built in. There are trees, there are fruiting trees. So it really focuses on the ecosystem of the community. Somewhat of a subdivision, but also making sure and being intentional on the green space within the community as well. We're working with Deron Chavis. I don't know if anyone is familiar with him. But Deron is, we're working with him. We're also working with Girls for Change. And it's a great opportunity to shift the narrative. This property is on the Jefferson Davis Highway, right? If you're familiar with Jefferson Davis Highway, it is on the other side of the freeway exit. So right at that exit on Chippenham Parkway, it's on the other side of that. We're also working with community members to get their input in what this should look like and what the focus should be. One of the other things that this is focusing on is also bringing in the youth into the community to help build out that green space as well. That farming aspect is there, learning how to grow vegetables and fruits from seed. So it is a new initiative. We're really excited about it. And again, that is in the south side of Richmond. Next screen. Hey, Elizabeth. I'll say a little bit about this before you jump in. Who might want to buy a CLT home? So honestly, the truth is, specifically in the BIPOC community, there is some hesitancy with land trust communities and land trust homes. And we'll get a little bit more into speaking about ground lease and things of that nature. But when you think about a community land trust home, affordable, yes, but the other piece of it is for anyone that's interested in starting to increase their livelihood, looking for a place to step up and step into home ownership, this is the place. It is a good first place to start with home ownership. A lot of times when we think about purchasing a home, the thought is, I want to get, my mansion, my dream home for the rest of my life. But the truth is, a lot of times people stay in a home for 5 to 6 years before they move again. We look at this as a great opportunity, not only for first-time homeowners, but for people that are looking for an opportunity to get into a community that maybe they grew up in and right now that they're priced out. And so that is just a little glimpse of who would be interested in a community land trust home. We have a lot of homes in Churchill. And so I know for me, I would not be able to afford a home in Churchill if I did not have a community land trust home personally. I actually live in Northside. I've been here for probably about 5 or 6 years. This is yet another community I grew up in, so Churchill and Highland Park. But to be quite honest with you, I couldn't afford the house that I'm living in now if I purchased it now. It has grown so much. So the land trust is also there to support people that want to grow up in or live in particular neighborhoods that they wouldn't be able to afford otherwise. Elizabeth?
Thanks for sharing that, Candace. So not only do our homes come with a much lower cost than you would find on the market, there are like some specific programmatic things that we have that do make the program really different. So there are like some stipulations that you would have to agree to. And one of those big things is the terms of our ground lease. And the ground lease is really the meat and bones of what makes the house affordable for you and then affordable in the future. And I think I'll go in depth if we have like some questions about that, but it can be a little kind of dense. So we'll go into that in a bit, but you also have to be income qualified, and I'll get to that in the next slide. So we focus really on low to moderate income families, and that is determined by the area median income and the percentage of your family situation, how many people will be living in the house. And then also you have to be qualified for a lender that will lend to a CLT specific home. But I'll get into that later as well. And you also cannot own another home at the time of closing. And you can't use this home as a investment property, rent it out. You have to be the sole owner of the home and reside in the home. So here are income limits. And again, this is based on the number of people who will be living in your home when you purchase it. And so we focus on 2 different programs, so to speak, based on the locality and the funding that's allotted to these homes. So for example, our funding and how we are able to price the homes and subsidize them so that they are affordable is based on like federal funds, grants, and whatnot. And certain localities have limits or stipulations based around what they are able to sell the homes for. So all of our homes in Chesterfield County are under 80% AMI, and then in Henrico, that number is at the 115% program. So it's kind of how, and Richmond can be hit or miss depending on funding for a program. But overall, you cannot make more than 115% of the area median income. But I'd say more than often, 9 times out of 10, we sell our homes in this 80% program, and most of our applicants are under 80% of the AMI. So if you have a household of 2 people and the house that you want to purchase is has these 80% AMI income limits, you cannot make more than $64,450. And that's kind of how we target who will be residing in these homes, and just kind of a estimate of how we also resell our homes is based on the area median income, not the market. And I'll get into that in a bit, but we price our homes so that they are affordable based on the income limits of the Richmond region. Let's see. So like I said earlier, the idea of the community land trust is to remove the land from the market so that it's preserved for community benefit. And so what we do is allow communities to have control over their land assets and to help people stay in place in their neighborhoods of choice with good quality housing. And kind of what's going off what Candace said earlier, that we're creating a permanent stock of homes that are affordable. This can really be a resource for new homeowners, people that are looking to start out on their homeownership journey into beginning to build equity through home ownership. We are looking to serve families who've been priced out of the housing market. We also look at this model as a way to stabilize neighborhoods, counter gentrification, and the subsidy that's put into these homes is permanently affordable. So that remains accessible not just to you, but to families throughout the ground lease period, which is 100 years. And this might be all kind of confusing right now, but I'll try and go into more of how the program works. And this model this diagram kind of tries to simplify it a bit, but how it works is, so on the conventional market, when you purchase a home, you are implicitly purchasing the land beneath the home. But with the community land trust model, the buyer purchases the house, the improvements, the physical building, but the land itself, that remains in trust with our nonprofit organization. So the land is leased through the owner of the house, the same way that any other homeowner would. So when it's time to sell your house, you only sell your house, but the land itself is never sold. And so the next buyer, they also need to meet the income qualification requirements. So that chart I showed earlier. And then they buy the home from you at an affordable an affordable price. And they're agreeing to the same sort of resale structure when they purchase the home. When they sign their ground lease, it also ensures that the home, when they sell, will be affordable to a new buyer as long as this home exists. And I'm going to talk a bit about this land lease, which is really what shapes the program. So the land lease is this 99-year lease that is signed at closing. It's intended to go beyond the life of the individual homeowner and likely that of their children. It's fully inheritable. So your home can be passed down to anyone of your heirs via state law. And we also, one of our program benefits is that we allow free will and life planning documents when you close through our program, and that's free of charge. And it's really intended again to ensure that intergenerational wealth building and equity building and just life planning as a part of our homeowner stewardship program. So your heirs, if you were to pass, they can either choose to live in the CLT home, or they also have the option of selling it and getting the same proceeds from the sale that you would if you had sold it at that time. There is a $100 annual fee to the homeowner, and that is really just what ties you to the land itself. It's a quarterly installment of $25 every 3 months, and our board can raise the ground lease fee in any year ending in 0 or 5, but can never exceed $250. And so there are some other stipulations about our program. Again, you can't rent out this home. It has to be your primary residence. Any renovations must be approved by our board. And by renovations, I mean anything that would require a building permit from a local jurisdiction. You're welcome. It's your home, so you can paint it, install shelves, anything like that. But if there are major renovations, like taking down a wall, an addition, a deck, anything that would require a permit, we require that board approval, just so that we're thinking about resale of this home to another family that is looking for affordable housing. So it must be high quality, safe, and then serve future generations. And this I will skip because it's for our realtors. I will let Candace jump in if there's anything. I know we've been talking for about 35 minutes. Is there anything in particular that we should touch on?
I guess the only thing I would mention here is to answer this question, and it's something that we get a lot, is why would someone want to purchase the home in regards to like the ground lease, and how does it compare to renting? And the fact of the matter is, specifically when it comes to renting, whether that's a house or an apartment, you're paying into someone else's property. And with the CLT, you are paying into your own property. One of the pieces that Elizabeth mentioned earlier about creating generational wealth, that person that purchases a home from Maggie Walker Community Land Trust can pass that home down. And I think that's a very significant thing to think about. If that home is paid off, it continues to be passed down for 100 years. And so that is a way of creating generational wealth that we really want to focus on in regards to home ownership. So the fact of the matter is, with the a lot of the down payment assistance that community members may be eligible for, and the other incentives that come along with it, including the support that comes with purchasing a home that's a little bit different than getting a home on the traditional market. Elizabeth and I are a team, but we also have 2 other team members, and we like to circle around, provide a holistic approach to our homeowners. And part of that, to be quite honest, is that there can be a lot of anxiety and trauma, if you will, for some, that comes with purchasing a home. And so our approach is, of course, to offer, great customer service, but even more so than that is to kind of be a bridge and a family around those that want to purchase. So when we think about community land trust, in particular, Maggie Walker Community Land Trust, and buying a home, it really is that wraparound service. And it really is taking into consideration that you are investing in something for yourself and for the next generation.
Thanks. So I'm going to go a bit into what happens when a homeowner decides to sell their home, and our equity building, and what you are entitled to get back if you are to sell your MWCLT home. So you are entitled, when selling your home, to get back any cash equity that you put into your home. So any down payment assistance, you are entitled to get that back. You also will get back any earned equity, and that is just through your loan with your bank. So any principal paid off through your monthly mortgage payments. And then you are also entitled to get back your home's increase in value. And again, that's based on the area median income increase over the time that you've been owning your house. And so one of the questions that we get a lot is like, why would I want a CLT home if I could build more equity just buying a house on the traditional market, or like, am I getting any equity through your program? And that's one of the things that we focus on, is this like balance between affordability and access, and then also increasing homeowner equity and wealth building, and that intergenerational wealth building gap. And so I think it's important to highlight that it is limited equity from what you would get on the traditional market, but it's really a stepping stool from maybe not being able to access that to now being able to have built wealth and built equity instead of renting. And it's this model that really shifts that possibility. And so over a period of time, we do expect many of our homeowners to use a program as a bridge and then go into another home option, or maybe people want to stay with the model and that's and pass it on to your family, but you have options and you are building equity over the time that you're in our houses. And I'll go like kind of into the initial purchase process. So this is one of our homes in the Randolph neighborhood in Richmond. And if any of y'all are familiar with that neighborhood, it's really, really increased in the appraised value over like the past 10 years, but especially continuing, it's just getting appraising for a lot of money and becoming unaffordable. And a lot of those, the housing stock in that neighborhood is smaller, 2-bedroom, 2 bungalow style homes that are for a smaller family or individual. So this home appraised for $215,000, and then we were able to sell it for $145,000 through fundraising, grants, and things like that. And because that price is reduced so much, it resulted in lower mortgage payment amount, the lower monthly payments, and a lower down payment for the buyer. So that just really increased affordability. And so for this particular home, it was, I'm going to walk through how it resells to the next home buyer. So this home was $145,000 when it was purchased. And then we calculate the change in the area median income over the time that this homeowner owned the house. So when they purchased the home, the AMI was $83,000. Then that increased by $7,200 by the time that they went to resell the property. So that increases 8.41%, which estimates about $12,200. And so this homeowner gained $12,200 in equity, and then that's not including any down payment that they put into the home, any principal that was made through monthly mortgage payments. And I will just say that this is important. If the AMI happens to decrease, which it has historically not been the case, the homeowner is still entitled to selling the house for what they purchased it for. So they will never lose money through this process. And then kind of going off what Candace and I have been trying to stress here about renting versus home ownership. Right here we see if a person like was paying the same amount in rent versus they were for their monthly mortgage payment, over a 5-year period, they would have gained they would have lost they would have gained $16,225 earned equity plus their increase in the value of their home. And that in that 5-year period, they gained $28,000 for $28,425 in equity instead of losing almost $50,000 in rent. And so this model really makes it possible to keep this home affordable for future families. So the resale itself, we look at that $145,000 and then add on that $12,200 in equity. And so the home will sell to the new home buyer for $157,200. And so that future resale price is what the new homeowner will pay. And that model continues when that homeowner sells their house and then resells it to another income qualifying home buyer. And let's see, before I get into the actual application process, I want to use this time for questions. I know we only have a few more minutes together, so I'd like to open that up for any questions from you all.
Hello,
Hello.
can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm a real estate agent. First of all, let me get that out of the way. And one of the things it is, going back to what Candace said, people are hesitant about the lease purchase home, what were the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. And I'm wondering if you all have any ideas on how to better market it. Most of the time I have gotten clients to sign on to the workshops and the seminars that you offer on a regular basis. But I think sometimes they still have more questions than answers, even after attending those. Do you have, what comes to mind, it is a good option. I see you're talking about as a stepping stone to home ownership for your next home. Do you have any like marketing ideas where people who have done that can give testimonials to how they were able to come in and kind of market it based on the renting versus home ownership? Because a lot of people don't see the value. They still think, okay, it's a trick, it's something, I'm not going to come out on top. And so it's like a trust issue too, and not being fully not understanding it fully. They're hard to commit to it, because I have a lot of people at that price point who can't afford right now because of the house. And like Candace said, I got my house to affordable housing back in 2006. I couldn't afford to live in this neighborhood now either. And but I'm not a part of the community land trust because that wasn't in effect. However, I do expect to receive equity on my children when it's sold, a good return on the investment. So I think that's what a lot of people are more concerned with. They look at it as still renting. They can't get that stigma out of their mind. That's it.
Thank you for sharing that, Ms. Frida. That is definitely something that I personally want to take on in terms of shifting that narrative, because the fact of the matter is, historically, community land trusts were created by the charades, right? Black man who was about to lose his property and decided that community coming together to hold on to property was better. We were better together than separate and holding on to property. And so to your point, there is a misconception, excuse me, about community land trust. And we do have some home buyers that have purchased their home and then sold the home and had great experiences. And we're working on gathering their narratives and their testimonies to put on our website and to share with others. And so to your point, that is something that is the challenge of this, is the misconception. So we are especially excited about opportunities like this to be able to share a little bit more personally as to what a land trust really is and how it is beneficial.
Yeah, and I think going off of that too, another thing that I think about explaining or stressing is that this program might not be for everyone. And some people just might not want to get down with the ground lease model or limited equity, and that's totally fine. And that our homes are a good stepping stone for maybe 5 to 7 years, and then puts you in a better situation to be able to jump on to the next thing. But then again, yeah, just stressing that maybe it's an option, but it's not the answer for everyone in every community.
And I want to add one more thing to that before we, if there's someone else that has a question. What Elizabeth said rings so true. It isn't for everybody, right? And I completely get that. But to your point, Ms. Frida, land trust, Maggie Walker wasn't around when I purchased a home. And one of the ways that I like to think about it is, what is your end goal in purchasing a home whenever you choose to purchase a home? So if you are looking for your forever home, then that's something to consider. If you are looking to get started and, get your foot into the door, but also play chess instead of checkers when it comes to your finances at that moment, this is it. The other piece is this, for me, is, and I'm taking it back to when I purchased, and if I had that opportunity, or even now, right? For me, it was very intentional to live in the community that I grew up in. That was very important to me, to live in either Churchill or somewhere over North Side. Call it nostalgia, call it wanting to be connected to the community in a particular way. It was important to me. And so this would be the route that, if I was purchasing now, I would have to take. And I believe that depending on what the person's end goal is, that's going to be the motivator to see if they want to, invest in this or somewhere else. And again, at the end of the day, we just want everybody to be happy, whether they choose Maggie Walker or not, and make a good decision that's sound and financially stable for them. Were there any other questions?
I've got a question. First of all, thanks for putting the presentation together. I found it really informational. I didn't know, I heard about you guys, but I didn't really know how the process works. So I'm glad you guys were able to come on. I know that Project Homes has a couple of empty lots in Fairmount. I think there's 2 that are across from you, Frida. And so I was wondering if you guys have any projects lined, because you said you work with them, if those are potentially projects in your pipeline.
He's talking about the property at the corner of 23rd and Q Street.
Yep.
2 vacant lots.
Do you know
Yeah.
what the address is?
It's 1100 23rd Street and 1102 23rd Street.
North 23rd.
Essentially, sometimes how it works with that partnership is that they will approach us with a property and just ask like, oh, do you want this in the land trust? And at that point, we have the option, depending on their programmatic situation, to purchase the land from them. And then so that home will be, the applicant will go through Project Homes, but then still have to qualify for both of our program and Project Homes. And then the home is in the land trust. So we do partner with them a lot because from our perspective, it's another house that will permanently be affordable. And we want as many homes in, especially neighborhoods like Churchill, to permanently be affordable.
I have a quick question. Do you have to have an applicant before you decide to build a house?
No.
Okay, because, Ms. Thompson and I and Breed and I, we both live in this area, because 2 homes recently sold behind me that are attached for $600,000.
Wow.
3-story homes. I would love to see Project Homes or somebody build affordable houses in those 2 lots that Sonny mentioned, to give somebody else a chance to come in, like the same chance Rita and I had when we bought our property. There's a renovated house next door to me that's on the market for $435,000. Most of my clients, first-time home buyers, really cap at about $250,000 to under $300,000, the average first-time home buyer. And it's hard. What they have on the market in that price range is not move-in ready.
No. Yeah, and we, just for an example, we had a home in our lease to purchase program. The home buyer will buy the home for $160,000 and the home just appraised for $400,000. So that's just like kind of an example of the extremes in that neighborhood. And that's on 23rd Street, I believe. Currently we have 2 homes that will be in Churchill And I think I think they're both, we are the developer on those, but we do work with Project Homes a lot, especially in Churchill.
I'll probably be contacting y'all offline. I know we're getting close to the end of our time. For our
Yeah.
meeting.
I think like if you have a specific like property acquisition question too, I can get you in touch with our acquisition team and they can better answer specific property questions.
Can you, Paul, provide us in the group chat with your email addresses? Oh, she just did it.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I don't want to take too much of your meeting time here, but
Thank you, ladies, both. Thank
if
you.
anyone has any other specific questions, I'll stop sharing my screen. We also have information sessions that go a lot more into our application specifics, and like if you have a client or a friend or a family member who's interested, that is a great first step, and we will be scheduling those into the new year. We don't have any more in 2022, but we're going to be getting those swinging again in the new year. So those are on our website homepage to register for those.
Yeah, and I would definitely encourage anybody who does have questions or wants to learn more to check those out, because one of the things that Elizabeth shared before we started is normally what they just presented usually would need more time. And so they found a way to consolidate it down, but there's so much more that they would love to share, and so much more that I think would help answer questions that everyone has. And I think, I appreciate, Candace, one thing that you noted at the start is you were pressing back on this idea of like, there's the term affordable housing, but you're trying to find some other way to word it, because really what y'all have just demonstrated is that this is a different option. I mean, where it's stuck in our head that you either buy or you rent. Those are your two options. The analogy it made me think of is if you were trying to travel to Disney World, you actually have multiple options. You could fly there, you could drive there, you could take the train, you could walk if you wanted, but nobody would do that. But each of those has their pros and cons. And I think what you've demonstrated for me through this is a community land trust provides another option that is different than those. And it has its pros and cons. And like you noted, the question, you just have to ask your own questions of what is it that I'm after? What is it I'm looking for? And I do think there is a group of people that this is the ideal scenario. There are other people that it wouldn't be. And there's, and so I really appreciate everything that you've shared, because for me, it makes me excited as I think about this community that I love and that we love, and seeing all the changes and knowing people who have wanted to move into the community they grew up in and can't now, that this not only provides an option now, but as you noted, you're actually, what's unique about this option that doesn't exist for buying, renting, is it guarantees affordability in a way that you just don't often see. So one question I did want to ask, I wanted to make sure I got it in before we close out, is, you've got a civic association in your presence right now. You've got a group of community members in your presence. How can we come alongside what y'all are doing? How can we support something like Maggie Walker Community Land Trust?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. Honestly, it's spreading the word, right? It is speaking to, as Ms. Frieda said, the stigma that's attached that got here before we got here, really, and letting people know of the work we're doing and the opportunities through Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. We also welcome your input, which is, again, why I'm excited about this partnership and having this opportunity. Because the other thing that's important to me is that when we have the opportunities to build and restore homes in a community, that we are doing that with what the community wants in mind, right? So what we see in Richmond right now are a lot of townhomes and condos being built. And of course, things change. But I'm curious about what the community that they're built in, is this what they wanted? Did they have an opportunity to have input in that? And so we look for your voice as well in the work that we do. And so reach out to us. If there are questions, comments, concerns, reach out to us. If there are things that you think we could do better, if there are areas of improvement, if there are things that you're like, you know what, this house or this block may need X, Y, and Z. Let us know your thoughts about that. And because for me, it is creating community. I'll share this really quickly. There's a house on Fairmount, and I never knew, and maybe someone on this call knows, I never knew the lady that owned this house. But as a kid, we drove past every day. We're in the season, and this lady had the biggest Christmas tree in her window, huge, decorated to the ceiling, right? It was so beautiful. And we look forward to seeing that all the time. If no one on this call knows her name, someone has to remember that house if you grew up in Churchill and in back in the day, so to speak, right? The point of that story is this. Maggie Walker Community Land Trust is about building homes, but we're also about connecting to the community. And if there's a way to get that input, it just makes the whole situation better.
That's great. So you all heard it. They've got the email addresses in there. They want your feedback. So email, go to an information session, just reach out. Because I think for us as a civic association, there's a lot of things that we want to see happen for our community. There's a lot of things that we don't want to see happen in our community. And engaging in groups like Maggie Walker Land Trust that are looking for input, this is one of the ways that we can do that. And be thinking of folks who fall into that demographic of like this being a great option. I've got somebody in mind right now that after we finish, I'm going to reach out to because she's who I was thinking of when I said somebody who grew up in the community that was hoping to buy that couldn't. So what I'm going to do is I can stick around to leave this call open for anybody who wants to stay, anybody who wants to go can. But just to close out, I want to thank Elizabeth, Candace, both of you again for joining, for packaging this information together for us. And I'm glad that this is recorded because we can come back to it. But I really appreciated one thing you noted is that this isn't a new idea. And so as much stigma as there is around it, and as many questions as there are around it, this has actually been a tried and true thing for decades. And as you showed on the map, it's beyond Richmond. There's so many that are doing this and learning from it and growing from it. So this is a model that is actually working. And it'd be good for us as a civic association to support that. So thank you for sharing all this and for joining. And so I'm gonna officially end the meeting here. I'll say this: the one meeting bit is there is a survey in the last email that I sent. 3 questions. That's basically helping us to figure out what 2023 looks like as far as meetings, times, and all that. So make sure if you haven't done it that you do it. But outside that, feel free to stick around if you have more questions for Elizabeth and Candace or anything in general. But outside that, I'll see everyone in January. I'll let you know when that meeting will be. Actually, it probably won't be the first Saturday. But Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy December. And yeah, so the room will stay open. But if anyone wants to go, you are welcome to head out to your Saturday. And I'm going to stop recording if I remember how.
And nice to see your face, Miss T.